So this is what we always do. Usually at the end of most of our conferences, we have the OPW interview. It's usually with one of the leaders in the industry, one of the industry leaders. What it is basically is just so you can understand for about 45 minutes what's going on in the minds of some of the CEOs in the business, and also see their viewpoints from a very in-depth perspective on where they see the industry heading and where they see their product going. And it's led by Mark Brooks, Online Personals Watch. So everyone please welcome Amanda Bradford and Mark Brooks.
So thank you for taking the time, Amanda. So I looked over your background, and you're a Stanford MBA, and you used to work with Salesforce and Google. And 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, you started The Lead, which is not an unusual standout app because it's rather exclusive.
Great.
How would you define The Lead? If you were telling a friend about The Lead, you weren't the CEO, you were whispering in a friend's ear, how would you describe it?
I always just say it's an app for people with high standards, right? It's because that, people like to say, oh, it's about what school you went to or it's what job you have, and I think we try not to get that detailed around like exactly what it is that makes you league worthy, but I do think the idea that it is designed for people that are educated, that are ambitious, that are looking to, I always say, like looking to date up, right? Everyone, you want to pair up like ambitious people with ambitious people, so we kind of call it like the power couple app. So that's sort of the brand we've been trying to build, and that's, I think it kind of is a dual purpose. On one hand, it makes people that are chasing their careers and are very career oriented feel happy that there's a community there for them that wants that. I think there's a lot of interesting articles out there about how some people don't like super assertive or ambitious women, and I think there is a lot of sensitivity around that. And so I think we've seen our product really stick with very successful women that are making a lot of money and are excited that this community is sort of selecting men that actually kind of find that attractive and are looking for that and aren't just looking for like a supermodel by their side.
So who would you describe as your competitors? So I think of Ivy. I think it was the Ivy.com some years ago.
Right.
And they've kind of broken out into events, which is a strand we should pick up in a minute, because that's a new interest to you. But who else would you say is your direct competitor at this stage?
I think we've kind of pushed the product in an interesting direction. So I would say, if I had to kind of put our competitors up there, I think it would be a combination of like probably like Hinge meets Meetup meets almost at this point it's a little bit of like a WhatsApp or some sort of group chat mentality, because we've seen a lot of the community angle that we've been pushing out really stick with people. And so I think people like the fact that it's more than just swiping. They're belonging to a community of people that kind of appreciate intellect and education. And so yeah, I don't think I don't really think we have one square competitor. I would say Ivy. So Ivy Connect, there's a lot of kind of YPO, YEC, what is it, some of the other ones, YEC's like friend company, I don't know, Founders Card. I would say all of those are similar in the fact that they're kind of curating Summit Series. They're all curating this like group of very, high achieving people, and those are usually offline. And then there's a bunch of, dating sites that are, curating people in some fashion. And then there's also sort of online to offline, which are sites like, Meetup, where they're actually, the goal of those sites are to get people offline, it's not like an online chat room. And so that's sort of, I would say we have like a multi-dimensional competitive matrix, but I think it also helps us kind of be a little bit more, stay more competitive, because we don't have like one clear competitor that could knock us out of the water, because we are kind of this more complex offering, I guess.
Is it dating? Are you finding your members are moving you in a different direction from dating?
I think the guy before me touched on a theme that I think was right, is that it is dating. I mean, that's the use case, that's the pain point that causes people to download the app, and any of our revenue models will likely be based on that pain, because that's monetizable, which social networks in general are pretty hard to monetize unless you're at a scale for advertising, and so which will probably never be, just because our model is not to be Facebook and not to be as wide as that broad of a community. We want to keep it sort of selective. We want to keep it very concentrated in urban areas. So I do see it always as having like a really good. We always need to have like a best-in-class dating app, but I do think there's other things we can offer our members that can cause them. I think you talked about a little bit of iDate, like they had that forum that maybe it was only 1% of people that really liked it, but they got a lot of value out of it. We're seeing a similar behavior with our users, and I think anything you can offer that allows people to kind of interact with your brand after they might be, maybe when they're no longer single, is a good feature to have and to test and to kind of provide you a moat for building more of a lifestyle brand versus just a kind of one-hit dating app.
Yeah, you've got to wonder with these forums, are they clearly the vocal minority?
Right.
Are they lifting you or can they bring you down? I mean,
Yeah.
listening to my conversation, I guess you get a frame of...
Yeah, it's been interesting. I mean, we have some funny stories about that just because we were very targeted to like 24 to 38, I would say was our core demographic when we launched, and we actually didn't let people in outside that age range because we're beta testing, we didn't want them to have a bad experience and complain, and as you know, there's always the one facet of people that are very vocal and they can be very distracting, and so we actually, when we were piloting our membership model, we had a lot of these users outside of that age group opt in to pay because we didn't really think through that, and so it's been really interesting to see, so we started letting in different age groups, and it is weird because you'll have like a community where like all of a sudden we had a 19-year-old got in, we didn't mean to have that happen, but so she's talking, and then there was like a 58-year-old woman talking and to a 19-year-old guy, and then you could sort of see how old they were, and it was a little bit of a weird dynamic when kind of it's all shrouded by this, dating overlay, so it's a little bit awkward, but we kind of pivoted by like, okay, we'll have the sort of more age targeted groups, and we won't put them in the same sort of communities. So it's been interesting trying to kind of create social circles for them without, and letting, the 18-year-old have a good experience as much as a 60-year-old or 70-year-old person. And they definitely want different things. The propensity to pay obviously increases as you get older, so I think it would be like stupid for us to ignore the over 40 population, but they are also much harder to please, and they're very vocal, and it's definitely been distracting now that we're like, okay, wait, we have a lot of this older demographic that wants more of a high-end, high-touch matchmaking service.
Yeah.
And so we have found ourselves sort of drawn into this older demographic and trying to figure out how to make that complement kind of our millennial, which is sort of our bread and butter, our sweet spot that we sort of started with like 25 to 30-year-olds.
So let's get into the events, because that really hits
Yeah.
home the dynamic of a room changes in the dating context when you've got a broad range. I mean, speed networking events are usually like a 10-15 year range. Tell me more about what are you doing with events now?
So we've tested pretty much everything. So we've tested everything from a member-hosted event where we're not even there, nobody from the company is there, we just let someone else organize an event and we sort of promote it. We've tested ones where we create them and we do tickets. We've tested ones where we create them and we don't do tickets. We've done some where they're open to everyone in the community. We've done some where they're only targeted to a very...
Where are they that you're doing them? And
we're only in New York, San Francisco, and LA right now. So those are the only places we've piloted them. But and we've done some where they're open to all ages, and we've done some where they're very targeted, like, this is for 28 to 32, and they're the only people invited. And it's just been interesting. Events are hard because it's really hard to guarantee an amazing event no matter how much work you put into it. It's also hard to guarantee who's going to show up and what the dynamic is going to be. So while I think they're good, I think I've come to the conclusion that like less is more, and like 1 or 2 really good events a year is better than us doing a weekly event. Yeah. It also takes up less mind share from the team, but people definitely like them. I mean, that's people really like kind of meeting people in groups. There's safety to it. You get to go with your girlfriend. You're not putting yourself out there as much, and you can speed dating exists because it's efficient, right? And so I do think there's an underlying efficiency to events when you can meet 3 or 4 potential suitors in one 2-hour period where normally that would take 4 hours. So right there you're saving a really busy person time. So I do think it is a feature of the app that we will continue, but I don't see it as sort of like a key revenue model at this point, but we are trying to bake that into some of our membership.
Have you ever considered offering matchmaking services on top of it?
So we've tested like passing leads to some matchmakers. You know, just the price point's high, so it's a long sales cycle no matter what. I mean, no one's going to fork over 5 to 10 grand in like a day. So, you know, we haven't really seen much come from it because they have to sort of sit there, they go meet them in person. They have to be like, will you buy this $10,000 or whatever much it is, you know, $30,000 package, and then we eventually would get a referral fee if they close. But we've been testing that like 3 months. I don't think one has closed, but it's, you know, it's a services business, right? So that would be, I think we'd have to figure out a way to make it very scalable, or else it would just be a, you know, essentially a headhunting. I always say recruiting is very similar to matchmaking, but yeah, it would just be a lot of human capital needed to kind of do that effectively. Because especially our demographic is very, you know, the people that are busy, that are making a lot of money, they expect a lot, and they want the best. They're very picky, and they want, you know, the best. And so if you can't provide that, they're not going to be happy with your services. So it's a tough business to get into from what I've seen. We did like, you know, a couple of weeks of really deep investigation into like, should this be something we do this year? And I think, you know, we kind of came away with it saying like that could be something we could tack on later, but I don't know if we'd want to make this like one of our core revenue streams right now.
So what will be your core?
So we're planning to do subscriptions, which would be, you know, kind of your classic dating playbook, which I think, you know, makes sense to, you know, online dating's been around for 20 years, right? So we could go try to invent a new business model, or we could just go and look at what works, what Match has done, what eHarmony's done, you know, take what they've done well, try to eliminate what sucks about those services. So right now we are piloting just like offering a membership for extra features, kind of more access to more profiles. So you're dating playbook 101. And you know, I think there's definitely a business there. Like, can it be more innovative, and could we grow the pie if we came up with, I guess, more creative ways to monetize? I definitely think there's a lot of opportunity, but I wouldn't want to, I would want to hedge on it by having at least a kind of tried and true revenue model chugging along, and then we can kind of experiment with some more moonshots.
Gotcha. So you worked with Sequoia Capital in the past as well. You raised money now. What was the raise? What's the standing for investment in
dating sucks to fundraise for. You know, nobody. You just say the industry you're in, and people just say, I won't even take a meeting with you.
What were the objectives? What did you have?
You know, I think it's just, I think there's been a lot of blog posts written on this, but, you know, in general, there hasn't been a ton of exits with dating, and I think when you don't have, you know, Snapchat, like, you know, valuations, and you don't have Facebook acquiring your industry every year, and you have one acquirer, then, you know, the VCs have kind of figured that out. And although I do, you know, I tend to argue, like, look, we're in a brand new era, this is totally different than even 5 years ago. You know, this is actually this is like the top 5, one of the 5 apps people are using on your smartphone, and if you're in the top 5 apps, like, no matter what app you are, there's opportunity, right? So I think of it as like a mobile first revolution with dating, and I think there's a ton of opportunity, but it's an uphill battle trying to convince seasoned investors that have been around since eHarmony and Zoosk and OkCupid, and you know, they're a little bit scarred, I guess I would say. So, you know, I found most successes, like the younger investors tend to be the most kind of optimistic and see the opportunity, and then I think we've done a lot of just like, let's execute, and if, you know, they'll be there if we execute, instead of kind of hoping and waiting around for investment dollars. So like when I kind of come up with our strategy for the company, I try to assume, you know, fundraising is going to be really hard, we might not get fundraising, so let's come up with a plan.
Did you have a round yet? I thought you had.
So we raised $2 million, but 2 years ago.
Gotcha.
January 2015, so a year and a half ago.
And what was the makeup? Who was it from?
So that was a bunch of seed funds put in, and some institutions. But I mean, I would call it a party round. Like, we didn't have someone leading the round. It wasn't your classic like, you know, VC, Sand Hill Road success story. It was definitely a lot of work to put it together, and then, you know, the first 500 was really, really hard to raise, especially when people, you know, you can't raise basically without a product and users in this space. So I didn't even try. I think I had 3 conversations, and they're like, I was like, look, here's the prototype. They're like, no, that's not going to work. So we ended up just launching it, getting users in San Francisco, having at least like 2 months of data, and then that's when we closed our $2 million round, which was after we could show, at least that we had decent traction and engagement.
Gotcha. So, well done.
Yeah.
That was an impressive
Don't ask me to do it again right now. I think fundraising climate's even worse than it was at that point. Yeah.
What are your goals for, in terms of growth? Where are you at and where do you want to be in the next, for the end of the year?
So I like this industry because I think it's like, I like that VCs don't think there's opportunity here, because I think there's a big arbitrage opportunity for all of us because, like I said, if you're one of the 5 apps that people are logging into every day on their phone and you're sharing like mindshare with Uber, Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat, and you're up there with them, then I think there's so much you can do. I was talking to a friend at Uber and she's like, yeah, people pay us like $200,000 just to have, Uber put something on, do a custom campaign with them. And granted, our user numbers are way less than Uber's, but even for regional targeted campaigns like Uber users in New York, people are paying a ton of money just to get their message out because Facebook's really the only place to advertise. So I think there's a huge like kind of custom, creative, like very targeted, high-end advertising opportunity. I think there's opportunity to go more higher end, but a little bit more scaling the kind of matchmaking model. And I also think there's a lot of opportunity in like the social networking aspect of, I think Bumble did it with BFF where we're doing something called the friend zone, but I think there is an idea of, can this be a way that humans meet each other, not just for dating, and can we change how humans make friends? And that's sort of I think a huge opportunity. If you think about, the role fraternities and sororities play, and sports teams, and interest clubs you join in college and after college. I think all of that, it needs to come online at some point. And so I do think there's a ton we can do. I think the question is just prioritization and getting to a point where you have the resources to sort of take advantage of all those opportunities.
I actually worked with a startup that was doing group dating.
Yeah.
And they found, they did an experiment, found they got a ton of traction in India, so they just uprooted and left for India. It was Igniter, anybody remember Igniter / Step Out? So,
yeah.
It's actually...
No, I think group dating is a huge opportunity. And we've built our platform in a way to try to facilitate that so that we don't have to have a human manually matching people, right? We can kind of have them self-subscribe into this group, and ideally at some point you could make it so it's pretty scalable and you don't have to call the venue and book the restaurant and have people calling back and forth. So I do think there's, you take like It's Just Lunch or Table for Six and kind of some of those models and sort of bring them into the mobile first era. I think there's just like a lot of opportunity. It's a pain. I think anytime you're dealing with something that's like one of the top 3 pain points, right, is like not having enough money, dating, and like not having friends, right? I would say, dating apps can deal with 2 of those. So maybe finding an apartment, number 4. But there's not that many. So there's things that are just very painful, and so I think dating has the advantage of being right there, which I think is why it's so monetizable.
Now, a while ago you had an experiment which was very interesting. You had an agreement that if a user said, "I'm not going to use any other dating apps," Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, we throw a lot of stuff against the wall because I'm like, well, we might as well. Who knows? And I think you're small enough and it's hard enough to get press coverage that like no one really notices, and like your users don't know enough to all talk. So you can kind of test a lot of stuff on them until you're big enough that someone's covering you all the time. But when you're not, you should take advantage of it. And so we'll do things to New York. We'll tell New York different things than we tell San Francisco, and just gauge the response and test different prices in different cities, which if everybody knew, they'd probably be really annoyed at us, being like, what do you mean, they just paid twice as much for the same product? But I think part of that is that we can see what users are saying and what they want, and we can kind of test different things. And with the exclusive contracts, we asked people to go exclusive to the league, and we basically would give them like a boost. What did we say we would do? I don't even know.
You do 10 invites. You do 10
we gave them VIP tickets, which was, we were trying to make a very precious commodity, so we didn't give very many of those out. And so if they went exclusive with us, they got extra invites for friends, and they also got, I think, like a little bit of algorithm love. Like we basically said, you'll see people you like will see you first. And we got a lot of contracts signed. It was hard. I mean, it was kind of a like fun thing that I think, it's really hard to audit. Like we can't tell how many apps they have on their phone, or if they logged into Tinder or Hinge at the same time, and I'm sure they probably did. But it was kind of interesting to see if people were open to going exclusive. And then, eventually, like maybe you do have a Nike sponsorship model where, you give your best users a sponsorship deal. So
How did that work out? What kind of response did you get?
we got more signatures than I thought, because we made them go to like HelloSign and sign it just so they felt like there was a contract. We were like, this is an honor, this is your word. So it was a weird experiment. I think my takeaway was that I think people like to feel special, and people like that, we only invited certain users to go exclusive, and I think they wanted to be part of something that not everybody could be part of, which is, kind of our whole product really, but that feeling. And so I think being invited to be an exclusive member is kind of a fun thing for people. So that was something that I think we'll weave into like future marketing campaigns.
Gotcha. Does anyone have any questions? I'll open it up to the floor. Okay, Tushar?
Hi.
It's Tushar from Verizon.
Hi.
So you said you were doing some price testing as well across. So with your kind of audience, how price sensitive are they? Are they?
It's actually, we launched, so no, they're not that price sensitive, which was great, because I was worried about that, because I'm like a millennial, and I was like, I don't even want to pay $20 for like my own product, I don't know, and I was like, my investors were like, monetize, and I was like, no, I think I'm nervous, everybody's doing free, Tinder's free, Hinge is free, like it's, it's scary. But so we ended up putting a membership model out at $20 a month, which my investors were like, that's way too low, that's the same as like, okay, Cupid, you're supposed to be this premium brand, but I was like, but we have like 24-year-olds like from Google that are making $60,000, like they don't want to pay. So we were arguing, I was like representing the millennials, they're representing the like, let's get margin here. And the $20 sold really, really well, like on the way higher, like I think we had a 15-20% conversion rate on it. I mean, granted it was new, so it's hard to know like if that would sustain, but it was also like a lot of work, because we were like not totally prepared to have paying customers, and you had like not a consistent feature, right? Because it doesn't always deliver the exact same time at the same place, and so you don't know, if you can make that event cool in perpetuity. So that's been sort of a challenge. We're trying to figure out, are there some events that we know we can do really well and almost like build it as if it was like a feature in the app, and like have it down to a science, so we're not constantly like trying to come up with them on the fly.
Thank you. Steve?
Okay, speaking on behalf of Core the Brooks.
Steve Dean spoke yesterday.
Steve
on
Dean.
Blog, yeah.
I got you.
And
Yeah,
Corner Brooks and networking.
Core the Brooks here. When you consider the people in New York routinely pay anywhere from like $200 to $400 for even just a dinner, do you really think that like $199 is that big a jump for your super elite VIP users? I can see it easily dropping over $1,000 on this. So the question is.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, I think we will creep up there. I think I just didn't want to lose. I mean, I think the thing that people forget, and if you look at our space, we have a ton of skeletons of people that tried to do the league but failed for that exact reason, because they said, oh, we're the Millionaires Club, and you have to have $2,000, and then they didn't get any like cute, smart young girls in, right? And they didn't get like the 24-year-olds from Google that don't want to pay $250 and are barely affording their apartment in New York, but they, went to an Ivy League school and look like a supermodel, and they don't need to pay $200. So you forget that like pricing sometimes, those are your attractors, those are your salespeople, so you need to get your salespeople in. And so I think what we'll end up doing is like, if we can bake enough stuff into the upgrade and kind of eventually like make the free version not that great, so that everyone is really incentivized to move, and then we can increase the price. But I think you always want some sort of way to get people in the door without having to pay that huge $2.99, $3.99, $4.99 price point, because it is scary. It does make you feel desperate, like you can't date, like you're really on a dating app. And I think that's the feeling that we're trying to not have people feel when they sign up for it.
Any more questions? No?
Sorry, I keep using the girl from Google because I used to work there, and I have all these little 23-year-olds that are using the app, and I always test stuff on them. I'm like, would you upgrade for this? And they're like, no, we can barely afford our rent, Amanda. So that's why I always say these 23-year-olds from Google, because they're my beta testers.
Hi, Alex here from TTech. You mentioned this 24-year-old girl from Google, but
Yeah.
I'm just curious, what is the main demographic in the app at the end of the day?
So our average age is 28. And I would say, yeah, our best customers are 27 to 31, where they're looking to start seriously dating and settle down. But we also realize that, in this space, especially in the mobile space, you really need to be relevant to the people, the millennials, right? The people that are using Snapchat and Instagram, and you can't lose them. But I think, so yeah, we're trying to kind of, balance that, because we want to be kind of young and hip, but you also realize that the older the people are, they're really your customers, right? And the younger people are a little more fickle and may go to the next cool dating app tomorrow and aren't that interested in settling down. So it's a little bit of a balancing act, but yeah, we definitely want to get I think 24 is where you really want to start introducing them to the brand, and then ideally they'd be spending money with us at 27 when they're pretty serious.
What's the biggest surprise so far that in terms of your running this app, creating, running, marketing,
Yeah.
what's the biggest surprise that hit you so far?
I think I know this because I read Sam Yegan's blog post, but I think the biggest surprise has been the divorced population. I mean, it's huge, right? And it's sort of an untapped market. And there's tons of, when we launched LA, I guess I wasn't prepared for this because we had marketed it so, we were so targeted in our New York and San Francisco to 24 to 36, and we were very laser focused on the demographic, and we hadn't really taken a step back. And then we launched LA, and we had a ton of 40 to, we had 10, 60-year-old women sign up that, very successful women that, some have children, some don't, and they are literally price insensitive. We could have sold them if we had a $20,000 product to sell, we could have sold 20 of these in our first week of LA. And that's where high-end matchmaking, we've been trying to think about it, but I think that population is really hard to ignore. I think they're very tired of Match. I think eHarmony is, basking on the realm of irrelevance at this point for most of the, kind of mobile people that know how to use iPhones and are pretty savvy. And so I think there's a huge, huge opportunity to really be kind of a match for these educated women that are divorcing at a very high rate. And so I was like, we don't have enough men for them. That's been sort of a big shock, is that we have 50-year-old men or 50-year-old women, and we don't have 50, 60-year-old men to pair them with. And so we've had to reach out to matchmakers, and we're trying to figure out what to do with these kind of the supply-demand issue. So that was interesting. Sam Yegan wrote a whole blog post about that as well, kind of the age supply-demand curve. As women get older, their supply shrinks, men's grows, and that can. But when an app where we only show people, the way we work is that we don't just show you everybody. We always show you people in your preferences, but where you're in their preferences, which is actually extremely limiting if you're a 51-year-old woman, and all the 51-year-old men capped their age preferences at 45. So we've seen this very interesting piece where we're like, well, do we change the algorithm and show them? Or so we've had a lot of internal debates about what to do with these. I mean, they're very attractive and they have money. They're not. It's an awesome demographic to have, but that's been sort of our biggest challenge. Is what do we do? Do we start marketing towards 60-year-old men? I don't even know where to find them. So I was I need to go hire someone to help me with marketing to that population. But I do think there's a big opportunity there.
And their preferences are on the older side of men.
Yeah, women tend to want to date their age or higher. I mean, it's just classically if you look at all the our data too, you look at OkCupid's data, it's all very correlated. The guys they like the most are it's literally a curve if you map their age to the guy's age, whereas the guys goes down, and so you end up having this. And I think it's cool because we do have a closed community, so we could just not let that many women in and only let, we could match them, but we haven't been that, I guess, mathematically focused. So now it's either we need to only let in a quota user, set a quota in that age, or we need to go and kind of be better at sourcing from a demographic we're not, I'm not super adept at acquiring, so it's a new challenge for us.
Yep. Another
Yes,
question?
you sure. If you're interested, if a woman at that age is interested in being a cougar, she's interested in younger men, she's going cougar sex, right? I mean, that's she's already targeted.
Well, I mean, no, but these are intelligent women who are
But the point is
more.
Yeah, like I
want
was
to be
saying,
part of the league.
40 to 55,
Even-
like,
This is exclusive cougars, right?
yeah.
Yeah, I know.
But it's not cougar because they want their own age, right? They just want a second.
If they were, even if they did have a younger preference,
Yeah.
they would still like a product
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's a segmentation thing. It's not
Right.
so much a.
Question here, question.
Hi, my name is Ajay. I'm from Quantprice. So I was curious to know, with your experience, where there's, a difference between supply and demand in certain parts of your market. Have you considered something like, dynamic pricing, just the way Uber does, or something like micropayments that happens in, games, which would help you finely tune the market to achieve, a better fit and things like that.
No, that sounds too advanced for our $2 million. But no, I mean, we've done our A/B price testing has been pretty crude, to be honest. I think we picked a couple prices and just tested them in different regions. We haven't done anything around. We have some in-app payments that I guess you could call micro. They're like $5, but and we've tested that a little bit, but we haven't really extensively. I mean, because that would be, I guess I kind of think of A/B testing as, price testing as like once you have a business model, like let's make it better. And I think we're still, to be fair, like figuring out what exactly our business model is. And so whether we can get a 1% conversion increase, that's nice. But right now we need to know that like that conversion rate is going to sustain the business for the next 4 years. And it's something we could actually build a kind of a company around. So.
Mike McCrown suggested a business model several times at iDate that I think may apply here, if not for some of you guys, consider an idea. But what he suggested over and over was internally, your company basically assigns a rating, say 1 to 10, for a given profile. 1 to 10, whatever it would be. And then, so if I'm, let's say, an 8, I'm going to see, and I'm a man, I'm looking at women that are basically, I'm seeing all the ranges. However, if I want to connect with someone who's a 9 or a 10, that I have to pay to do. And a woman, however, if she's on there, she's on, let's say a woman is a 9, she's only going to see 9s and 10s of men. So in her case, she doesn't have to really pay anything. The guy would.
That's kind of what happened to us.
You do the same thing with women as well. You do the same, like I said, these women that are 60, say, hey, look, here's a guy. You wouldn't say he's out of your league, but you're saying he's out of your league. And he's saying if you want to connect with him, you would have to pay for a higher service.
Right.
A thought.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the charm model, though, right? I mean, essentially, usually it's the guys that need the most help will buy the charms to send to the girls that don't need the help, right? So I mean, but that's like a more scientific way of thinking about it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Any other?
Yeah, like it.
So I'm too sure you had a question.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
All right.
I can go on.
Name it.
So just to clarify, are you going for the, it's the club of New York bankers? Are you going for more, intelligentsia? What level are you, how far are you filtering down?
You mean what's the lower tier?
Yeah, what's the
or
lower bound?
Lower bound, I mean, I keep talking about these 23-year-olds from Google, but I mean, I think people with, college degrees that have a promising career ahead of them, they're not C-level, they're not making 100K yet, they're not anything, but they will be our demographic in 5 or 7 years that will pay us. So we're trying to kind of get them into the club now.
So it's more fraternity, like, that's probably the closest.
Yeah, I always say like Soho House is sort of what we try to emulate, where they have the younger kids membership where if you're under 27, you get like a discounted rate at Soho House. So it's the same kind of idea.
I mean, so for your higher tiers, it's like I would assume that like once these people are earning and they have, time is the scarce commodity.
Right.
If you just took away all the microtransactions and just gave them like a one flat price, like at least a lot of this audience, I guess, would pay for it. Like time does become the scarcest
Right.
commodity.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we have a lot of upward bound in our price point. I want to be careful about, I guess, we just want to make sure we're just prepared, we're getting our operations in order so we don't have everything totally ready to just monetize everything at a perfect point, but I do think we will kind of crawl upwards.
I'm from Startup. Did you get any negative feedback about waiting lists in those cities from users that believe that you should be on the platform?
Well, we have tons of negative feedback everywhere, but in the App Store, most of them are people who download the app and we're not available in their city, so they just get upset, and then because they're like, "You're not here yet," and we're like, "I know, we'll probably never be there. We're not going to Kansas," but so then they'll write a bad review,
No, but I mean like longer waiting lists in the cities that you.
In the cities that we're live, yeah. I mean, people want, some people have been on the waiting list like 9 months or a year, and they write bad reviews too. But I think for us, we want to keep, that's something we want to. I'm trying to build a business model that like we don't need to have massive amount of users for, and so that's why we will creep the price up, and that's why we're slowly kind of moving people over to this paywall model, this membership model. But because ideally we want to only have to have like maybe 30,000 people in a city, and that's all we want. And so I haven't figured out what that like upper bound is, but I think it's important to keep people on the waiting list so that they know it's not. It's not just like another dating app. I think that's a big.
I think you got a bad review right here.
I've been on the waiting list since September of 2014.
You might have got lost in the migration if you're not early.
495, and then I switched my location to LA, and then when I went back to New York, it put me back at 29,000. So
After you paid?
have not paid.
Maybe it's
But I was wondering, I have 295 friends on the app. How many referrals do you need to get in for free?
So that's only one of the factors we look at. And if you really signed up in September, you might have been. So we did a massive.
2014.
I know he's original cast. We did a big database migration and had a lot of issues with waitlist people because they were like, I don't know. Anyway, some data got lost. But so you could be lost in league purgatory. So you should check with your concierge. But no, so we look at referrals. I mean, we look at a bunch of stuff. We look at education tier, like what level of education you've achieved. We look at referrals. I mean, the nice part about us is that we have LinkedIn data, so we can really see like keyword search, the jobs you've held, the companies you've worked for, the friends you have on LinkedIn plus Facebook, and your referrals, and if anyone sent you a referral. So we have a lot of like different data points that we try to weigh, and we kind of tinker with that.
I'm not trying to be insulting, but what I love about this industry here is sometimes me, Steve, other people in the business will do things with your applications, and we won't tell you. We won't call you in advance and tell you. So similar, I applied as an affiliate for Match.com, and I was denied. The guy who runs iDate was denied affiliate for Match.com. And that's one of the things I tell people. Like, oh, Match.com's affiliate program denied me.
Let's get the date check.
But if they're checking really well. But if they're denying me, who else did? Who else did they think of what they're losing? So it's just, nothing? Yeah, okay, that's good. That's all right, but it's just something to think about. So in this case, I'm just saying, hey, look, you're looking at it as employment. Steve Dean from Date Working, OPW. I mean, okay, well, I'm not saying,
No, I'm saying he's probably lost in the purgatory. That's what I was saying.
Hey, Ravi from Hardin, I'm actually in the league, so.
Yeah.
My question for you
He was
is,
not lost in purgatory.
Yeah. One of the things I made a comment about though is, I felt the league was so cheap, I actually deleted it.
Cheap.
Yeah, for me, it actually felt cheap. I was like, this is not high enough for what I'm interested in looking for. Because if anybody can pay this. That was just, my feedback.
Oh, when we piloted the membership?
Yeah, I was like,
piece?
anybody can pay this. This is easy. This is
Was that the $20 one?
Yeah, I think it was $19.99 or something.
Yeah.
It was just too cheap, whatever
Yeah.
it was.
So what feels like the right price?
You know what? For a guy, here's the thing, right? Guy-girl difference. For me, if you charge me
30 or something.
$5.99, I would have been okay. Like, that kind of would have been my limit.
Hold on, $600.
Yeah, no.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
Losing $400 a user?
Yeah, and then versus like the girl, I would expect it would always be a little bit cheaper because you require them to get us to pay the $600.
Right.
The one comment I had is I have a lot of friends in LA that are like super wealthy, super connected, like worth $100 million. They can't get in the league.
Really?
They're like good-looking guys.
Give me their names. I need to talk to my team.
Well, I was just curious. One of them is like, you were sort of pointing at that. I think one of them is like 4,000 and something. He's like, how do they vet their app? Like, is this automated or what's going on? He's like, I got like 6,000 LinkedIn connection, 2 million.
Yeah, well, it's funny, the iDate guy was talking about photos, and usually it is, like, people like not update their Facebook photos, and they'll...
Well, that's what I was telling him. I said, you're 55, your photo from when you're 40 is not really gonna fly.
Or they don't even put their face. I mean, especially the older people are really bad at photos, and they don't realize that, like, you need to show your face, and you can't have, like, a photo of you in sunglasses, like, with your 3 kids. Like, that's not the best first photo.
My actual question, though, was, do your investors not pressure you to get things going faster?
To add more people.
Yeah, just to let the people through or monetize better.
Yeah, they definitely do.
Yeah. How do you hold back? Well, what do you tell them? Like, no, get lost?
Well, we had so much, honestly, like, I want to write a book about our, like, tech problems, but, I mean, we, like, had so much, we rewrote all our architecture. It was, like, an 8-month process, and the other one, like, wasn't scaling, and so we had a bunch of kind of product stuff that we wanted to make sure we had totally solved before we started introducing the product to people, because it's a really bad experience if you like log in the app and it's crashing, or you log in the app and like your messages don't get sent through, or you're not getting push notifications. And so we had, building a mobile app is a lot harder than I thought. I mean, we basically did it twice, and so now we're almost at a point where I feel like the product is ready we could step on the gas a little more.
Okay.
So but that's why, like, we've sort of kept people there because we were trying to really kind of figure out what our business model is, get the product right, and then we can kind of start scaling it at that point.
And sorry, did you bring on a technology partner? How did you solve that? Just throw money in it?
So we threw all our $2 million at it. We brought on a couple full-time, a lot of expensive contractors. I think our new platform is really good, but we're still, I think we only launched it in February, so it's still basically brand new, and there's still some people that had left that had code, so it's a big tech. Being a software company is hard, so we realized that, and so I think we would have moved a lot faster had we kind of built the product right from the beginning, and we'd probably be a lot more advanced in getting your friends would probably be on the app at that point. But
I guess you didn't expect the kind of traction, I guess.
Yeah, we was very beta, and then I think our vetting algorithm is, if they are over 55, that's probably it. It's at that point, it's almost a supply-demand algorithm where we're like, are they going to have enough people in here that meet their preferences? And if they're not, we keep them on the wait list. So if they're super picky, or like really old, short people that only want, like if you're outside the bell curve, it's like they're going to have a bad experience and write a bad review. So like, is it better to keep them on the wait list? Either way, we're going to get a bad review. At least this time they won't be like, oh, I went in there and they didn't have anyone. So we do that a lot too.
All right, I'm going to wrap it up. Amanda, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you
thanks for
coming
letting
out
me ramble on.
to interview with us.